Showers likely and isolated thunderstorms until midnight, then periods of thunderstorms after midnight. Low in the upper 50s. Southeast wind 5 to 15 miles an hour. Chance of precipitation 80%.
Well, you heard it. We're set for a lot of rain to come in. Basically about every day after tomorrow on Saturday. Today's Friday the 22nd. We want to try to get the beans planted, PowerPlant planted, and a little bit of corn. We only got a small window to do that in, and the weeds are growing pretty good up there. I'll take you up to the top field and show you. I elected not to burn it down with a Roundup product. We'll disc it out, and that'll kill what weeds are up there, and we'll get this program moving on. Now what we're going to go up there and plant is what I consider a late season food source. The soybeans, number one. There's a lot of corn planted around me, so I'm not going to worry about the corn as much. The soybeans, as you've seen in the past, the gravitation of wildlife towards them. So that's our main concern, is get those planted. Down here in southern Iowa, it sort of has a pattern. If it rains, and when it quits, it quits. So I'd like to get as much moisture working for me as I can. So let's go up and get started up here on the field. Well, you can see on the back of the truck, we've got quite a bit of fertilizer there. Triple 13 and 4 bags of urea. I believe it's 48000, and that's going to be for the power plant. A power plant with the sunflowers and the sorghum in it takes a lot of nitrogen, and if you want those sunflowers to be that tall, you're going to have to feed them. And what you're looking at there is approximately $540 worth of fertilizer on that truck. Now, I realize that not everybody can spend that kind of money on fertilizer, and I'm not trying to outdo anyone. It's just that there's 7 acres up there, and if you break that down, that's not much more than 50 pounds, 100 pounds an acre, what you're going to have. Now, if you want these food plots of that size to produce, you're going to have to feed them. And like I said, I realize not everybody has that availability of the money to just basically throw on the ground to have deer food grow. But that's what it takes, and I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. That's what it takes, and it's still a gamble if you don't get the right rains and everything. But if you do get the rains and you've done everything right, then you're going to have to nourish that crop. So it is going to take money. But if you're not planting that big of a food plot, then you don't have to worry about it. This plot is what I would call a destination plot. You've seen it in the past, and it'll graze quite a few animals, turkeys, deer, whatever, and so it's pretty active. And if you noticed last year, it was eaten clear down, there wasn't a bean left. So you know about what kind of population you have to plant up there for the herd that you're feeding. Now, whether you kill an animal up there or not is up to the hunting gods. You know they're going to come and eat it. But anyhow, when you're going to sustain that kind of grazing pressure, you're going to have to put fertilizer. Now what we're planting today is an annual. We're going to, what we planted in the past was a perennial. You want to make about a 60-40 split. About 60% should be perennial in your food plot operation. That way the wildlife will hang around your place that much longer. Whereas the annual comes and goes, it comes in and then goes out. So they'll graze that off and be gone. So the more perennials you actually have, the better off you are. in the long run. The annuals now, these aren't what I call fall annuals. These are late season annuals where they're going to be clear into January and on beyond. And, we'll plant our late season annuals, the ice creams of the food plot, later in August. But today we're going to try to get the ground tilled up and get ahead of the weeds and get, like I say, a late season crop. By that I mean these soybeans will, as you've seen, last late into the season and still have a lot of gravity to pull in wildlife. So let's get started. One thing you may have to buy if you're going to apply a lot of fertilizer is you're going to have a spreader, and that spreader really comes in handy. Now that spreader will not work with lime. It'll work with a granular lime. You've seen me put that kind of lime on, but ag lime it won't. It'll plug up and break the mechanism inside. But if you was going to put granular lime on it, pel lime, pelletized lime, you'd be okay with it. It'll spread that just fine. But the ag lime, it sets up in there and it just doesn't work well. So, but for spreading on heavy seed and the fertilizer, that's the way to go. Okay, we're up here on the field right now, and you can see in the background here, right in here, a lot of weeds are starting to grow on this. Lots and lots of velvet leaf. They're really prolific. We were going to go with a Roundup product to burn this down, but with the weather patterns and my work schedule right now, that's not going to work, because if we get a week of rain and we get the heat and humidity, these weeds will be on a foot, 18 inches tall in a matter of time. We've already disted this field once, and in Europe, to get away from using glyphosates, I probably screwed that word up, but it's early in the morning. Anyhow, Roundup products, what they do is they'll disc their field several times, and they will set the disc at the same height every time so they don't bring up the dormant seed bank, because the dormant seed bank in any soil is tremendous. I mean, who knows, when I look around here, I see velvet leaf all over the place. One velvet leaf plant can put millions of seed out in a year. And that's one Achilles heel about PowerPlant. It is what I would call a dirty annual. You cannot spray annuals. You put an annual out, there's no cure or no spray. You will kill it, so the weeds will grow up in it. A perennial, you can get, like I say, the rest of the sleigh to spray it and still not kill it off. Then you'll kill the undesirables off, the broadleafs and the grasses. But when you plant an annual, if the weeds come up in it, that's what's going to come up in it. And PowerPlant is really a good product. I mean, it's really neat with all the food source and protein it has, but you want to try to get the weeds killed off as much as you can prior to planting it, because they will come up. Now, the nice thing about PowerPlant, when it does get up strong enough, it can canopy and shade out the undesirable weeds. But those velvet leaf, they grow pretty fast and they grow pretty tall, so you want to get ahead of them. Like I say, we had a ½ inch of rain down here the other day. The soil, it's not too bad. It's pretty dry on top. We're going to try to get it, you can see that it's falling apart, which is a good thing, because I don't want to pack it down. You don't want to pack your seed bed down. But I've only got this window of opportunity. Remember, if you can get in and burn it down on your annuals with a Roundup product, that's fine. If you can't, then go ahead and disc them out. And if you disc a couple times, let them regerminate, the weeds that is, and then hit it again with the disc. That's another good, like I say, they do that a lot in Europe. Their production goes down because their growing season gets shorter. So I told a gentleman that on my YouTube channel. But that's, if you want to keep it in an organic field, you can do it that way. But I'm going to pan around here and show you some of this weed crop. And if it gets hot and humid, this stuff will really take off. Yeah, there's an old soybean right there. A lot of water hemp in here. We had that problem last year, and the broadleafs with the velvet leaf, there's quite a few of those in there, but we'll disc them out. As you can see, there's a lot of little velvet leaf in there. Them things are really notorious, so the only way you can do that in an annual is to pull them out by hand. But we want this to have a green haze to it, but we don't want weeds. And in another week, with the heat and humidity comes in, it'll have a green haze and it'll be all weeds. So let's get at field preparation. Okay, you can see in the foreground, background back there, where it's bright green, that's where the soybeans were last year. And as I turn this to dirt, I don't want to forget that. So what I'll do is go down on the end of the field and I'll mark it with these flags. That way it gives me a reference point. So I know I'm going to put a strip of corn right through here, and I'll be rotating the crop from soybeans to corn, and this will give me my reference points. You can pick these flags up at your hardware store, or you can pick them up off the job site. But that gives you, when you come back in here to plant your corn, you'll know to stay within those boundaries. Okay, there's a red flag down there, you can see that. And just up the ways, right in there is another red flag. That'll let me know that swath will be planted in corn coming diagonal across this field. Yeah, in the past on these videos, when I poured this granular fertilizer in, any farm chemicals, you got to take some precaution, because you never know. You inhale it, even the dust off that triple 13. Oh, you got that. Got some eyeglasses. Long sleeve shirt, coveralls, at least long pants. Someday they tell you, hey, you got cancer, you might resort back to the day that you was putting triple 13 on or something. Any farm chemicals, try to put your gloves on, rubber gloves on. Like I say, I was pretty laxed in the past, but I want to emphasize that now, especially to you new food plotters. This stuff is chemical, and it could harm you. Now, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure in this situation. So let's get to pouring the triple 13 on. Okay, when I had my soil sample test, it showed to raise my pK up, potassium and phosphorus up. The nitrogen comes along with it. That's 13% nitrogen, 13% phosphorus, and 13% potassium. A bag of that's 50 pounds. So we got approximately, we're going to probably do 6 acres out there right now. And so, you know, if we go in there with anywhere between 50 and 75 pounds an acre, that'll give us a good take. Then I'm also going to go back through where I'm going to put that PowerPlant, and I'm going to put some 40, I think it's 42000, it's pure urea. Could be 48, I'd have to look at it. I'm really tired right now, but I'll put that urea on where I'm going to put that PowerPlant and where I'm going to put the corn. because both of those really draw the nitrogen out. And without putting anhydrous on, you have to put some, you don't want to put more than 50 pounds of nitrogen on per acre. It don't do you any good after that. But you know, you could put up to 50 pounds an acre. So we're not even going to come close to that. We're just going to go where we're going to put the corn and the power plant at. And but you got to measure that out, and that's what a soil sample will tell you what you need. But I don't have a fertilizer box on my planter. If I had one, I'd just put it in the planter, and then it would drop it right in a row. So I have to broadcast it on because I can't really get it on any other way. But if you did have a planter with a fertilizer box, then you could put it there, and that fertilizer would go exactly where you wanted it. Right now I'm sort of feeding everything. That does have an Achilles heel on feeding the weeds too. So let's get at it. Yeah, on that power plant, they recommend 400 pounds an acre of triple 13 if you don't have a soil test. Those sunflowers and sorghum, they really draw in the nitrogen. So like I said, if you want that stuff to be 6 feet tall, and it will get that big, you've got to feed it. It's like the big wild plant. Feed me right now. And you have to go in there pretty strong with some fertilizer for power plant. But it eats it up and it don't put nothing back. Yeah, everywhere we go with that power plant, we're going to put a little shot of urea with it. Now let's try it out some more today. It's drying out pretty good. Had a little moisture in it, but the wind finally picked up. Now we're going to disc that fertilizer in and get this leveled out and go ahead and get it seeded. Had to air it out a little bit this morning, but it's pretty dry now. So this tractor here can go a little faster than the other tractor, so we'll rock and roll. But many steps, many steps. As you notice, we're getting a weed-free field. We're going to take a second pass on a diagonal to really take those rows out. But you can remember what it looked like about 7 hours ago, and we've been working ever since. But that's the way you do an annual with your disking. You disc it early in the season. I disced it late March, 1st of April, and chopped up the residue. Let it grow back, and disc it again. Now, like I said earlier this morning, that's the way the European countries do to get it away from glassified products, Roundup, stuff like that, burn down 2,4-D. But when they do that, they're definitely shorten their growing season and their yield because they pass up a lot of good rains doing that. So light disking, disc those weeds out. You don't have to spray if you don't want to. The organic farm. I have a young man up in Wisconsin was concerned about that, and this is how you could do that, just by keep disking until the weed, now we've killed the weeds off, that new growth, but we don't want to go too deep again or we'll be getting into another seed bed of weeds and bringing them up. So disc light disc heavy at first, chop them up, and then go back across it. So let's get her on. Burning daylight. Sometimes 2 better than 1. But if one's sitting, then you ain't got 2 running. Gotta get these 2 running together. Because like I say, it looks, it's been a sunny day today. I ain't seen the sun all day. I ain't seen no rain either. But that's riding around with you all day long. That way I can circle around. Okay, this is Whitetail Institute PowerPlant. Right on the front, tells you 65 degrees or warmer. On the back side of that, requires 400 pounds. So triple 13 if you don't have a soil test. That tells you it takes a lot of nitrogen and a lot of phosphorus and potassium. Well, let's get it on. And the reason I'm going to use this spreader, this hand spreader, is because when I put the beans on, I put it on at a heavier rate, probably more beans than need, but some of them aren't going to germinate. And if you put this amount of seed, this is supposed to plant between 3/4 and 1 acre. And if you put that amount of seed in that big spreader, it would be out so fast that you wouldn't get that mileage out of it. So you're better off to go with one of these earthway spreaders. They're a real good spreader and they work just fine. And it gives you more control over your broadcast. Got a mixture of beans, sorghum, sunflower seeds, and those bun beans are in there. They're a forage bean, and that really makes it grow. Besides that, if you're overweight and you get into food plotting, you do some walking, good exercise. You won't be overweight for long. Well, we got it all seeded now. Some of you first time guys probably never seen soybeans broadcasted on, but they work. I come back in, I don't need rows. I can spray and that'll take out, when you drive up through there, that'll make rows. But broadcast it on, put it on heavy, you're gonna lose some. But that's what I'm growing food for the wildlife. I notice I keep kicking up a covey of quail down there, so that PowerPlant will really come into play. I want to make this clear again in every video. I don't give a damn about killing anything on this field. My sole purpose is for entertainment, to get back into agriculture somewhat, as I did when I was a kid on the farm. That's reward enough. Get this dirt on your hand, that's connecting to nature. So many people, all you want to do is walk on it. Has no value to you. That's where your deer antlers grow from, that dirt. These guys, all this trick mineral BS. I always got almost as many Pope and Young animals, record book animals as any place, and that was long before this dope 'em deer. And now there are probably areas in this country that you're lacking minerals, but not in this country, in Clark County. So you are what you eat, and I don't put mineral licks on this farm because they don't need it. I've shot several Pope and Young animals without minerals, and but like I said, if you live in an area that your ground's pretty depleted, you may have to go that route. I believe in feeding them because that's feeding the whole scope of things. That's not funneling them in to one concentrated area where they can spread disease to one another. Now, I know a lot of you guys think that's hokey pokey, and that's fine. Everybody's got their opinion. But when your deer herd gets sick, like our chickens got sick with this bird flu, and see millions and millions of animals eradicated, that might get you to thinking. And because deer are not inoculated like cattle and livestock. When they get dropped, they're not a herd animal, so if one of them gets sick, there's no inoculation. The vet didn't come and shoot them up like they do to cattle. So, well, that's enough. We're going to run this disc over here, put the light disc on it. That'll put it down on the ground. It's supposed to rain. And hope you learned something and brought you along with it. You got to be real careful when you're working by yourself or out here in the field. You're tired, you get hurt. This has to be lifted up. This sort of poor design. It works nice, but yet you don't want to get your feet under there. Get that straightened out, and then that's all. We're just going to throw about an inch of dirt on top of it. There again, be very careful. Don't get your feet underneath of there. And when you're doing that disking it in, there's heavy disking and there's light disking. That doesn't mean you have a heavy disc or a light disc. You just want to throw enough dirt over the top of that seed. Make those little ridges. And I'd use the colopactor, but it's a little damp. And I don't, you know, I can put a little dirt on this. We're going to get some big rains. And some of these won't get covered, but you see, enough dirt's getting thrown over them. You don't want more than an inch over the top of them. So if you go fast, you can set your disc to where you can just cover it. But lightly disc it back in. That way you have some dirt over it. Unless you got a bean planter. And I could plant it with the planter, but I'd have to change out the planter plates and the transmission gearing. So it's better just to do it this way. I've had good luck doing it. So that's what you're doing here. You're just trying to throw enough dirt over it. Or you could make a chain link fence or whatever and drag over it. But you need to put some dirt over the top of that seed. It's a big seed, so it's got a lot of energy. It'll come up. It's not like your clover where it's just pressed on there. You can actually cover a PowerPlant and your soybean. Well, here's what we started with. Kernel of corn equals 1 cob of corn. And while I'm on that subject, how many ears grow on a stalk of corn? One. One seed, one corn seed. Here's your money worth. Many, many corn seeds. The Indians taught the Pilgrims how to plant corn. They used fish, which was their nitrogen source. We used urea or anhydrous. In my case, I use urea. The next one little soybean. One little soybean. Every one of those little soybeans up there going to grow into a stalk like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. There's 23 bean pods on there with at least 2 beans in there. So one little bean that started that multiplied itself by quite a bit. If you had 22 times 2 is 44 beans you got there for one. Are food plots worth it? I think so. Some of you may not. You know, that's America for you. But it's a lot of hard work. And when you take it on, just keep in mind your reward will be far greater of seeing your bounty than ever harvesting an animal off of it. So, and it's still farming. There ain't no guarantees. Well, like I showed you, one kernel of corn produces many. One little soybean produces many also. So that's what we planted together. Hope you enjoy the video. Well, we got her done. We didn't use Roundup. This field's weed free right now. And I want to throw that in for a subscriber of mine, Christopher Brooks, a young man up in Wisconsin, who his grandmother won't let him use chemicals on her ground for his food plots. Christopher, it can be done. As you can see here, we had all that green weeds on here. We disted it all out. So if you're taking your rototiller to do the same. Well, we got this done totally without any burn down. And the roots are gone. It took a little while, but if you're worried about using Roundup product to burn the weeds off, a disc will do the same thing. It just takes several passes. We're going to pan around here and give you an idea. Remember yesterday that whole hillside was green. The whole field was coming on green. It's almost as if you seeded it. Now you'd be hard pressed to find a growing weed. Disking will get it done. Disc it heavy, then go to the light. We got the beans on, we got the PowerPlant on, and now all we gotta do is wait for the rain. Yeah, I hope these videos help you people out in some way. Keep in mind, I don't know it all. I'll tell you that right up front. But if you put your back in your mind a project, you can do it. And it's still farming, so keep that in mind. If you get a chance, pick up the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. You will find out what you're doing. The land that you walk upon is a living thing. It's just not a piece of dirt. All humanity, all wildlife originate from the ground that we walk upon. If you treat it right and put back, it's going to give back. And that's all I'm doing here. My equipment doesn't give me an added advantage other than I can do it a little faster. But if you have whatever you have, use it by all means, and whatever improvement you do will be better than doing nothing. So like I want to emphasize, I'm not endorsing any product. I use Whitetail Institute product because I believe in it. But if you use a product and you believe in it, continue on. Just do something to enhance giving back attitude, as Aldo Leopold did in his book. It's not about killing things, it's about growing things. You grow things, you'll have plenty of opportunity to have wildlife cross the lands that you have cultivated. So like I said, this is not an ego trip for me. I'm just trying to share my knowledge, what little I have, with you out there. And best of luck in your adventures on your fruit plots. Some of you are going to do everything right and have failures. Some are going to do everything right and have success. Because that's farming in the best of scenarios.